This is the Collaboration Dynamics Podcast, helping you work together better with Judy Reese, X-Ray listener, best-selling author, international virtual collaboration trainer, and master of metaphor. Hear more at xraylistening.com.
Hello and welcome to the Collaboration Dynamics Podcast. With me today is Robin Manuell, a fascinating person, as I'm sure you're about to discover. Several listeners to this podcast had asked me to interview Robin specifically because they're particularly interested in one of his collaborations. He's done loads, but they're interested in one. So we'll be asking him specifically about that during the course of this podcast. But before we start, hello Robin, how are you doing?
Hey there, I'm good. Yes, looking forward to the call.
Would you like to say a little bit about the kinds of collaborations you've been involved in?
I think my introduction to team working as an adult came through running a theatre company, which I started when I was at university with a group of friends. And I did that for the next 10 years. And that was fascinating because it was a very poorly resourced endeavour, and whether we could pay ourselves and everyone involved usually depended on the weather because we did an open air show. And it taught me a lot about the reasons why people want to do things, the things that people love, their passions, what they want to learn. And it taught me to kind of to have that in mind when I was working with people. Why are they here? What is it they're going to get out of this project, and how is it going to help them make the transition to their next project easier? After about 10 years of working in the theatre, I started to transfer the skills I'd learnt there into running a personal development course at the business management school at Brighton, and starting to do coaching and training, first on, the kind of personal development, communication, presentation skills, but then increasingly on team working. And I did some research at the Centre for Research and Innovation at Brighton, which was around learning in complex product system firms. That's basically anything that involves it. So think about a new aeroplane, the Channel Tunnel, a massive piece of software for the NHS. These kind of projects involve distributed teams working to solve problems, to do things that haven't been done before, having to coordinate all of their efforts according to a timescale and deliver something. So there's a vast amount of risk involved in that endeavour, and there's also a lot of knowledge flowing around in the system. How can you capture that? There's a lot that you can capture explicitly through documents and artefacts, the things that you're creating. But then there's also a whole load of tacit knowledge, the knowledge that, the things that people know about the processes, about the things that work. So I became very fascinated in, how can you expose that tacit knowledge? How can you enable some kind of flow within teams that allows that information to be in the room? And as a result of that, I started a company called the Innovation Agency with a guy called Jack Martin Leith, and we did research and we facilitated events around innovation for kind of large multinationals.
Gosh, that sounds so exciting. I want to ask you about 1 million questions about all of that.
It does sound great. It's great remembering it as well. Thank you for that opportunity.
And actually, the whole piece about innovation in distributed teams is absolutely where my attention is at the moment, because there's so much going on in that world where basically every organisation now has to regard itself as an innovator. Every organisation has distributed teams, whereas in the past lots of organisations didn't. So many more people are coming up against that same set of problems and an awful lot of them don't have access to your research or any real understanding of what the important factors are.
And it's interesting the way that these things kind of percolate out. I mean, I'm talking about stuff that I was doing back in the late 90s and early 2000s. I'm sure, as through your academic work as well, you'll have been aware of these ideas, and now they're everywhere there, as you say.
Yes, I was just before we came on the call, I was just doing some reading about some stuff of Fred Kaufman's about the relationship between advocacy and inquiry, asking questions and proposing your point of view.
Okay.
Which
yeah.
I suspect relates to our two specialties. Mine in terms of asking questions, and yours more recently has been in storytelling.
Indeed, yes. Well, that's kind of an accident. It's funny. I did my first NLP training back in 1996, when Bandler first started training with McKenna in the UK, and I saw Bandler doing his stuff on stage, and I loved it. Coming from a theatre background, it was like stand-up comedy. And great to see, that people were drifting off into trance and having new experiences through the process of listening to the stories he was telling. So, as is my wont, I kind of got a bit obsessed with that and just consumed everything that I could find, all of Bandler's work, lots of stuff from Milton Erickson. And also, if you look at the literature, there's people like Gurdjieff and Robert Anton Wilson who use similar storytelling techniques deliberately to create mind change in their readers. And the further you look out, you realize that all of the hypnotic patterns that are being used by Erickson and Bandler are just they're present everywhere in the literature. Lawrence Stern, I think it was, The Adventures of Tristram Shandy. He wrote a story that just went on and kept going off on these different tangents and breaking through the frame of what a story was meant to be, and what it was supposed to do. So yeah, I got kind of good at that, and I met Igor at a John Grinder training. Our eyes met across the room, and I think we recognised a kindred spirit. We ended up running some NLP trainings together, and specifically some storytelling trainings. We did some corporate work together as well, which was fascinating. Again, just exploring the collaboration in functional teams, management teams. How do you get the heads of department talking together and actually being on the same page? And then we went our separate ways. And then back in, I can't remember, 2008, something like that, Igor asked me to do an interview for his hypnosis masterclass on storytelling. I did that for him, and we followed it up 2012 with a workshop in Amsterdam. And the clip that you have online, that we have online, is taken from that training.
Now, just for people who don't know, and I don't know how to pronounce Igor's surname, Lederhovsky?
That's the one I'm going for.
And he's a very big noise in the world of hypnosis, as I understand it. Hypnosis not being my specialist subject, but my sense is that he seems to be a very, very big name indeed.
He is. He's done a lot of great work, and what is it that he does? What he's really good at is, and I think one of the things that we had in common is looking for patterns. Trying to see the pattern in something. I remember doing a corporate training with him in the Far East that And in the morning, I demonstrated a couple of different exercises. I don't think he'd ever seen them kind of done before. And I saw him just getting fired up, really fired up about something. And he was putting these two things together. And after lunch, he ran a training which kind of combined them in a really ingenious new way. And I think what he's done is he's been very focused, finding the best people in the field to train with, look at what they do, and then reframing what he's found in a kind of step-by-step process that works very well for other people, that helps people learn the same things. So while we have very different approaches and we disagree about a lot of things as well, I'm always fascinated when I come across his new ideas. They always make me think about things in a new way, and I learn something about myself whenever we work together.
Really interesting that you should pick out that pattern, because one of the things that I know about Igor is that as a result of a series of conversations that he and I had a year or so ago, his recent product, Beyond Self-Hypnosis, has picked up some really useful ideas from clean language and the metaphor stuff that I do, and applied them and presented them in a new and better and probably more user-friendly way, which people are getting quite excited about, and quite rightly, I think. So it's lovely to see that kind of thing happening, when people pick up things and well, when someone who's really good at this stuff picks up ideas and presents them afresh to a whole fresh audience and gets a new result from it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I've come across the Beyond Hypnosis one. It's very clever, and what he's essentially doing is the magical pathway that's been described in esoteric literature for thousands of years. Getting control over the mind, building a body of light, creating a safe space around you that you control, and then learning how to explore that imaginary world.
Oh, and you can relate that to much more, I suppose, more academic work, like Daniel Siegel's book Mindsight, which is again all about getting control of the mind in a different way. But whereas Igor's stuff is very, very user-friendly and have a go at it kind of feeling, then you get an academic book which is a lot drier and more rigid in its approach.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is all beside the point. What I really want to ask you about is when you are collaborating at your best, and as my listeners have said, that collaboration with Igor is one of the best live improvised collaborations they've ever seen. When you are collaborating at your best, that's like what?
It's like I'm the host of a party at my house. And we've got lots of different rooms, and there's plenty of food and drink. I'm kind of wandering around the house, making sure that all the different kind of rooms have got what they need. People are kind of sitting, chatting together. Some people are drawing or playing. Maybe somebody's making up music in the other room. Maybe there's a little argument developing on the stairs in the line for the toilet. It's an alcohol-free afternoon party. And yeah.
And when it's an alcohol-free afternoon party like that, and you're the host, what kind of host is that host?
That host is very attentive to the needs of his guests. He's keeping the whole environment kind of safe and tidy along the way. He's making sure that information gets from room to room. Maybe there's something happening at the end of, maybe we've got the cake's coming out, we're going to sing a song and do a show. And so, yeah, I'm just kind of like holding the flow and seeing where people are, waiting for them to be ready, encouraging them along, and getting everything together.
So getting information from room to room, like the cake's coming out, and holding flow. Is holding flow the same or different to getting information from room to room?
Well, now I'm seeing something else. I'm seeing that all the people in the space have like light around them, kind of street. There's a kind of a bubble, a glow of light around them, and it leaves their head. It kind of carries up into the sky and twines and mixes around with all of the other. There's like a kind of weave of light appearing in the above the group as all of these different kind of strands are coming together.
It's a weave of light. Is there anything else about the light in that weave of light?
Well, there are many different colours, and they're working together to make patterns. They're kind of constrained in their own spaces, but moving freely.
Constrained, but
each other.
Constrained, but moving freely.
Yes, they're constrained within certain dimensions, but moving freely within that. And the weave, the weave creates a stronger ribbon.
And is there anything else about that weave?
Well, it's kind of fun to watch it. Come together.
And there's the light comes from the people. There's a glow of light around them.
Yeah.
And then it goes up into the weave.
Yeah.
And whereabouts are you in relation to all of that?
Well, I started earlier before anyone arrived. And I stood in the room with my light, and I kind of breathed in and felt it grow and expand until it filled the whole space. And then as people came into the space, I suppose it kind of wrapped around them and drew them in and gave them space and helped bring it all together. Kind of formed a scaffold or a framework around which the process could begin.
And what kind of light is your light? Does it have a colour?
It's lilac.
And it's lilac. And when you breathed in, is there anything else about that?
Well, the lilac is it's been very benevolent and holding. It's reassuring. It reassures me, and I feel safe and without need.
So you feel safe and without need, and it's reassuring and holding like that. And benevolent. And is there anything else about that lilac light?
Well, it's flowing down too. It's flowing from the thread that's connecting me to the sky.
Mm-hmm. Ah, so it's flowing down from the thread that's connecting you to the sky.
Yeah.
Is there anything else about that?
Well, that thread's always there. And when I know that I'm holding a space, when I'm creating a collaboration. Sorry, I was just pausing for that ambulance to go past. Then it's like I deliberately draw it down and fill myself with it, and then allow that to expand to fill the space.
Ah, so is that what happens at the beginning before anyone arrives?
Yeah.
Ah, so you, at that point, you breathe in and you draw it down from the thread that connects you to the sky.
Yeah.
And then it fills the whole space with that benevolent holding, reassuring, and you feel safe and without need, and all of that. And then, as other people arrives, it forms a scaffold for the weave of light to develop.
You've exposed my innermost magical secrets now, Judy. Everyone knows.
Well, I mean, the crucial question then is, how do you know that that thread links you to the sky?
I'm not sure I can answer that question without exploring it further, and that would involve me going into trance states that we might not have time for right now. Is that okay?
That's fine. That's fine. If you, there are places it's okay to go and places it's not okay to go in a short podcast.
It's funny though. I was thinking earlier. Because, I mean, I'm sure you've experienced this because clean language and exploring my own metaphorical world is something that I've been doing ever since I can remember. It's sometimes hard to take a fresh approach and to actually be in the moment and not, basically reciting something I've created already. And that was lovely because I did feel very much in the moment, and yes.
That's interesting. So,
Good work, Judy.
What difference does it make being in the moment with this as opposed to doing something you've prepared earlier?
For your listeners, and because this is about clean language, I feel that being able to be in the moment is kind of more honest and gives them a better experience of what it's like to experience clean language.
Great, thank you. So, now I've exposed your innermost secrets like that.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you'd like to add about how this whole process of collaboration works for you?
Well, I suppose to jump to the rehearsed metaphor, I do see a series of doors that I have to go through before I'm able to feel comfortable collaborating and to be in that safe space. And the first door is around, and it's something about trust and rapport. The first one is about personal trust. I have to trust myself. I have to trust my unconscious mind. I have to feel like my needs are met, that I can meet my needs in the situation that I'm going to be in. And when I'm in that place of safety, and confidence, then I feel like I can walk into past the second door. And the second door is very much about the specific relationship with the other people that you're collaborating with, and the dynamic of that. And my metaphor for that, I suppose, is I was with my daughter the other day in the sandpit, and I remember talking to this guy who he was about 20. He worked for one of the political parties. I won't say which one. He came down to Brighton. I did not like him. He was opinionated, but it wasn't the fact that he had opinions that differed from mine that really got on my wick. It was like we couldn't have a conversation because we couldn't build anything together that we could actually see or criticize. It was like we were in that sandpit, and he was building his castle, and every time I tried to build my little castle, he would go, "No, not that," and knock it down. The first foundations, "No, not that." Bah, bah. And I remember when I was about 18, meeting a guy called Tony Mercer. He's a great guy. He's a cinematographer, a director of photography in Canada, in Vancouver. And he's a great storyteller. And he was somebody who really, talking with him taught me a different way of being in that sandpit, where he would, he would give me space to build my little bit of castle, and he would look at it and he'd go, "Oh, right, I see." And then he would build a bit of his castle and go, "Well, what about this?" And I could go, "Oh, well, I see. Okay, well, what about this?" And together we'd kind of have the space to actually see what we were building before we started arguing about, what to do next. Mm-hmm. And so I imagine when I'm collaborating with someone, I imagine it's like kind of having an invisible architectural model floating in the space between us. And our conversation, our dialogue has to involve that process of showing what's inside our own minds first, and being really clear about that so that we can begin to actually, further explore and combine and put together those things. A lot of the time in collaborations, you can't even get past that basic building block. And for me, that's one of the doorways. I need to know that process is going to be understood in the personal dynamic. Does that make sense?
It does, absolutely. So the first doorway is trust yourself. The second doorway is about the specific relationship, the dynamic of that.
Yeah.
Are there any other doorways? Yeah,
the third doorway is around the context of the collaboration. Mm-hmm. It's about trust in the intention and the outcome of the process. I suppose the important element for me here is that the control has to be in the room. Mm-hmm. And if there are stakeholders who affect the result, who are going to determine what happens, who aren't in the room, then that has to be really clear. Mm-hmm. This probably makes more sense with a specific example of, for example, a head office has sent down the memo, "Oh, you've got to redesign this process," and a team have been put together to do that, but actually, the budget holder's not in the team, and one of the directors is going to want to change it all anyway. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So for me, there has to be a sense that me for myself and us as a team together can make the decisions that need to be made in the best interests of our intention and our outcome. Mm-hmm.
And when all that happens, then you've got the recipe for an excellent collaboration.
Yeah. And I have a specific image in mind of the kind of contrast. When I first started doing corporate work, I remember going to a meeting. It was a proposal by a telecommunications company to build a call center for a bank. and there were about 25 people around a long table. You know, they'd been flown in from all around the world. We sat around the table. The two, you know, the manager, the team manager, and his deputy gave a bit of a chat, and they had a coffee break, and then there were a couple of questions, and that was it. And the team leader came up to me at the end of it and kind of went, "Oh, yeah, no, that went really well." I can remember, oh yeah, you know, some people were definitely talking together at a coffee break. I was like absolutely astounded, because the day before I'd been at a meeting for the first meeting for a new production of an open air show that my company were doing, and I was producing it, but I was very much kind of hands on and letting it go and seeing what had happened. And the director had turned up with a one-page sheet of paper, which was the agenda for the meeting, and had started off kind of reading it. And within 5 minutes, the whole group had kind of like broken up into teams. Somebody was making coffee. Food had appeared. Some people were trying to get attention from other people, but there were other groups designing the costumes, and there was this whole messy thing. But work was getting done, and information was flowing freely. And yeah, I like to hold those two images in mind.
Oh, this conversation could go on and on and on, but I'm going to say we're out of time. We can't keep going, but we probably might have to come back and do another one another day.
Well, I'd love to. It's been fascinating, actually, to talk about the collaboration stuff, because at the moment I've got my head in the storytelling mode. I'm doing a workshop in Amsterdam at the end of May in storytelling and hypnosis, which... if any of your listeners are interested in that, they can find out more at hypnoticstorytelling.com/Amsterdam 2015. But yeah, talking about collaboration, as you can hear, I'm really enthusiastic about it.
So let's come back to this theme another day. But if people want to go to that training in Amsterdam, they need to move pretty quickly. So
indeed, yes, it's the end of May. Yeah.
End of May. Lovely. So thank you very much indeed, and presumably if people want to contact you more generally, hypnoticstorytelling.com has got your details on it.
Yeah, send me an email, robinmanuell@gmail.com.
Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed. Been brilliant.
All right, folks. Thank you very much, Judy.